A very good evening from Buckingham Palace after a day full of ceremony and pageantry to mark the end of the Diamond Jubilee celebrations. This afternoon, the Queen and members of the royal family appeared on the palace balcony to watch a flypast by the RAF. But the Duke of Edinburgh, a constant presence by her side at these big state occasions, was absent. He remains in hospital where he's recovering from an infection. Our first report on the day's events is from Andy Moore.
St Paul's Cathedral in London was the setting for what the Queen regarded as one of the most important events of her Diamond Jubilee celebrations. But today she arrived without Prince Philip at her side. He spent the night in hospital, suffering from an infection, and will miss the rest of the Jubilee tributes. Other members of her family, including Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry, joined her in the service of thanksgiving. Also in the congregation, guests from throughout the Commonwealth. The Archbishop of Canterbury told them the Queen's 6 decades on the throne were a true example of dedication.
We are marking today the anniversary of one historic and very public act of dedication. A dedication that has endured faithfully, calmly and generously through most of the adult lives of most of us here.
Afterwards, the royal party hosted a lunch at Westminster Hall, the oldest part of the Houses of Parliament. The meal included Welsh lamb and Scottish salmon. On the guest list were politicians and ordinary members of the Queen's household. A 60-gun salute on Horse Guards parade marked the Queen's departure from the Houses of Parliament. She travelled in an open carriage back to Buckingham Palace, accompanied by the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall. Thousands of flag-waving spectators lined the route of the procession. For many, the appearance of the Queen and many members of the royal family on the balcony of Buckingham Palace was the highlight of the day's events. They watched a flypast by Second World War aircraft.
Three cheers for Her Majesty the Queen!
The Queen would have wanted her husband to be at her side, but despite his absence, she seemed to enjoy the moment. Andy Moore, BBC News.
From St Paul's to Westminster to Buckingham Palace, the streets were once again today lined with crowds of well-wishers who'd come to pay tribute to the Queen and her 60-year reign. Our correspondent Lorna Gordon has been meeting some of them.
60 years of service, a 4-day celebration, and on the Mall, cheers once again from the crowd for the monarch and her Diamond Jubilee. This is what they'd waited for, a formal procession with a mounted escort closely followed by the Queen.
I've just finished wiping the tears from my eyes. It's very emotional. I really got choked up, I did.
She gave us a wee wee, she did.
Today was ceremonial, soldiers and marching bands. For those who'd been waiting hours, it was this and the royal family that they had come to see.
That's what our country's built on, I think. Without the Queen and the royal family, we wouldn't have a lot, would we? And they keep us together.
Earlier at St Paul's Cathedral, a service of thanksgiving and a proclamation for the Queen.
I love the Queen and I love the royal family, so I just wanted to make the effort and get here and be part of the celebrations.
Back on the Mall, the public led in, flags still aloft as their enthusiasm and excitement increased.
There are now hundreds of thousands of people making their way down the Mall, all wanting to take part in this final day of celebrations.
See the balcony, it's just amazing, absolutely, yeah, really fantastic.
And then from that balcony, the Queen appeared. This a moment of history and a time for reflection. These celebrations for the monarch made extra special by the people here who took part. Lorna Gordon, BBC News. on the Mall.
Well, as we heard earlier, some people were lucky enough to join the Queen and other members of the royal family for lunch. Around 700 members of the public were invited to a Diamond Jubilee meal at Westminster Hall. Our correspondent Jeremy Cook has been speaking to two of them about their big day.
Pomp and ceremony, a right royal occasion, but this time with a difference. The guests, not lords and ladies, but ordinary people invited to represent the nation's trades and professions. So, who are they? She describes herself as an ordinary girl from South London, but Afoma Ojukwu has big plans. She's already a boarder at King Edward's Independent School in Surrey, thanks to a bursary from a livery company. But she's aiming high. The plan is Oxford University.
I never thought that I would be having lunch with the Queen. Even though there's 700 other people there, still like, I'm there. It's like, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. It's quite cool.
At Brinsford High Security Prison, another of today's invited guests. Jonathan Ensel teaches young offenders about gardening and about life. What do you think he's going off to have lunch with the Queen? Do you
Good. So,
what do you make of that?
Shows how good a teacher he is, doesn't it?
Today's royal lunch recognises his contribution.
I know, what an honour. What an honour. I'm excited and terrified all at once. Bolt out of the blue, I was really surprised. I think it's just because of the environment that I've been working in sort of this kind of prison environment. It's quite a challenging environment, it's an unusual and different environment.
But it has been...
And so today's event, and if getting invited wasn't enough, some found themselves sharing a table with royalty.
It was amazing. I sat on a table with the Duke of Cambridge. I'll tell my children and everything like that. So it was definitely an amazing day.
I won't forget it. I'll have to go and probably say the story about 10 million times, but it'll be a pleasure to do that.
So it's been an unforgettable day, yes, for the royal family, for the thousands who've gathered here, but perhaps most of all for those select few who were chosen to dine with the Queen. Jeremy Cook, BBC News, Westminster.
Let's talk now to our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell, who joins me now. Well, Nick, of course, the weather has deteriorated since the royal family appeared on the balcony a little earlier, and the Queen was obviously delighted by the crowd, but upset, I imagine, that the Duke of Edinburgh couldn't stand beside her.
Disappointed. I think upset would be too strong a word. I'm sure that the entire family is disappointed, as he is. Prince Edward went to see him this afternoon. He came out and said that he's much better, but in need of a good rest, which may suggest that he has perhaps, at the age of nearly 91, still been overdoing it, rather. They said that the Queen was bearing up but missing him, and I think that's been the impression throughout the day. She has been quite cheerful on the balcony and earlier waving to the crowds. A couple of interesting things briefly. The sight of the Duchess of Cornwall in the carriage beside the Queen, unimaginable 10 years ago at the time of the Golden Jubilee. And who appeared on the balcony with the Queen? A small group, a much leaner group of the royal family. And I think it's brought into sharper focus what the royal family is going to look like in the future. Duke of Edinburgh, of course, absent, not intentionally, but the Prince of Wales and his wife, Prince William and his wife, and Prince Harry on the balcony there. Those are the people to whom the Queen is going to be looking increasingly for support in the years to come, I think.
And we're going to hear from the Queen at 6 o'clock tonight. There's a televised address. Do we have any idea what's in it yet?
All we know at this point is that she wants to say thank you. It was recorded at Buckingham Palace, we know, last night before the concert. We will discover in 20 minutes on television and radio, most unusually a broadcast, but the purpose of which, I think, is to say thank you very much.
Nick, thanks very much to you and Nicholas Witchell, our royal correspondent. It's been an extraordinary day of celebration, witnessed by tens of thousands here at Buckingham Palace. Thank you, Kate. So 4 days of celebration for the Diamond Jubilee have come to a close, with the Queen and other members of the royal family acknowledging the crowds at Buckingham Palace. The Queen will make a televised address with a message of thanks on BBC One at 6 o'clock. But for now, that's it from here. In a moment, the news where you are. Until then, we'll leave you with some of the memorable images from today. Goodbye.
They came to London to see the Queen and to sing for her. A nerve-wracking moment and the culmination of months of planning. A specially formed choir who've learned a new anthem commissioned for the Diamond Jubilee. Performed in front of the royal family, though absent through illness, the Duke of Edinburgh. The First Minister was among the guests, along with some of Scotland's leading clergymen at this service of thanksgiving to mark the monarch's 60 years on the throne.
One of London's more infamous sights, the Tower of London.
Between rehearsals, an open-top bus tour of London's famous landmarks, relaxation for these young singers, 3 of them from Scotland, ahead of their big moment.
I like the royal family, so it was, and I also like singing a lot, so it's just really good opportunity, like, to do the things I like doing.
Well, I think it's an honour to sing to the Queen, and then hopefully she has good thoughts about it.
It sounded really fun, and it's sort of a once-in-a-lifetime chance, so I just wanted to try it.
Hundreds of children applied to join the Diamond Choir. Just 41 were chosen for this royal seal of approval. Today's service here at St Paul's brings to an end a few days of Diamond Jubilee celebrations here in London. Scottish schoolchildren took part in the flotilla on the Thames, and they have again here today in the choir for the Queen. Tim Reid reporting Scotland at St Paul's.
And last night, beacons were lit across Scotland to mark the Diamond Jubilee, including this one at Edinburgh Castle. It was one of more than 4,000 beacons across the UK. Another was lit at the summit of Ben Nevis just before the Queen herself lit the final beacon outside Buckingham Palace.